Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back here in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. We got a problem here, though, at the outset today, John. I'm worried that you don't have it today. I went over to press record, and you had a great big yawn. And I'm a little concerned that that you're not going to be able to just bring the energy today.
It's the rainy weather.
Okay. Well,
and I watched one too many Columbos last night, so I'm a little tired.
So we came into the pre-production meeting. All John wanted to talk about was watching Columbo last night. So you stayed up late watching Columbo.
Yes,
And now this is what our listeners are left with.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, John, if nothing else, John's got a cup of coffee, and he's just going to keep pounding coffees as we go through.
If we could just get Hills Brothers.
You used to bring that in. What happened?
I can't find it.
Well, okay.
And so I need to ask the powers that be if we can get Hills Brothers in.
It sounds like excuses to me. But all right. Well, we do have a lot to cover today, John. So I know you do have lots of notes, which usually bodes well for, if nothing else, the length of the podcast.
I do want to make one quick announcement before I forget.
You're supposed to wait till the end when I ask you if there's anything else, and then you have a whole new topic. Okay, John has an announcement.
I just want to congratulate Representative Gustav for.
Yes, that's right.
He was the. He guessed the trivia.
The trivia question,
which was the answer was President Franklin Roosevelt.
Yes, had some comments about I believe. Local spending.
Yes,
Yep. So FDR.
So congratulations.
And where were the comments delivered?
It was in Sioux City.
Sioux City. So
which you were the first one to guess it right away.
Yeah, I guessed it in the pre-production meeting. I had the location wrong. I thought he said it at the state capitol when he was here, but it was in Sioux City.
Yeah. Yep.
So I only got partial credit. So, all right, Bill, if you're out there, you're another winner. Yeah. And if there were a nice prize of ITR merch, you don't get it because you're a legislator, and that would violate the ethics laws. As you are the ethics chair, you should know that. So, okay, well, let's get on to it. I want to get to the good stuff before John tires out on us. I wanted to, John, just sort of do a quick recap of where things are at the legislative session. And frankly, they're not a lot different from where they were a week ago when we sort of went over this. The property tax conversation continues. I think there continue to be real questions about the impact of these bills, and I suspect that there will be more revisions to the plan that the Ways and Means chairs have talked about. There is a growing concern that just the entire structure may not work at all. I think we've talked about that, John.
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to continue working, trying to understand these bills, but it is possible, and we said this, I think, going back even to our tax day luncheon, John, that it may be that we have to wait a year. Yes, and I don't like that outcome, but if that's what has to do we want a good bill, not just a bill, and we want a good bill that even if there are winners and losers in a bill, we want to maximize the winners and make sure that whatever passes is a true benefit to Iowa taxpayers that reduces the cost and the scope of government. Correct?
I agree, yeah.
Okay.
And I wish I had the quote, but I'll just paraphrase. I think it was Barry Goldwater who said that sometimes better to in a sense, prevent bad laws than just passing laws.
Well, I think there's probably shades of Coolidge in that too,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So how'd I do?
Yes,
do you like
absolutely,
that?
Absolutely, yeah. That's even better.
Not getting that Hoover ball down on me today. Yeah. I'm with it.
Yeah, that's even better.
All right, good. Goldwater and Coolidge, that we are off and running today on the podcast.
My favorite, Governor Theodore Christensen, said something similar too. He was
Minnesota, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Tightwad Ted was his nickname.
Tightwad Ted.
His campaign slogan was "More Ted, Less Taxes."
Yeah, we need a moniker for you, John. I don't know. Trade policy, John, just doesn't ring very well. Some other things though that are going on in the Capitol, though, as you progress to the end, and we're pretty close to where the sort of the calendar end is to the legislature. And it'll probably go into overtime a little bit. Obviously, the budget's the big thing. When it's time to go, you can usually resolve those budget differences. Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about that. Believe that the 2/3 constitutional amendment, 2/3 majority for tax increases, That's still absolutely a live round. We may still get that yet this year, even though they don't technically have to do it until next year. Makes a lot of sense to get it done now so that we can start planning that campaign and get everyone, build awareness, all of those things, right?
So worst case scenario, if that it's still alive, even if it doesn't advance?
Correct.
Yeah.
If it does not advance this year, it could, with all legislation, frankly, it is a 2-year General Assembly timeline.
Yeah.
So anyway, that we hope passes this year. Don't see any real reason not to do it this year, but things get weird at the end of legislative session, so we're cognizant of that. There's some other holdups, I think. There's obviously the issue with the carbon capture pipeline. Really don't want to get us involved in that, but there's a big eminent domain conversation happen around the carbon capture pipeline. I don't know if that's going to hold up session, but that is certainly an outstanding issue. Talked to some of my Capitol friends. There's an issue around pharmacy benefit managers. That seems to be a hot potato right now. And there's some nicotine taxation things that are popped up. I don't know if any of those are really going to slow down the end of session, but that is I guess what's really going on right now. Anything else you're tracking up there right now in the legislature, John?
No, just I think those the property tax bills, the main one, and the taxpayer protection amendment, and of course looking at the budget bills as they start moving.
Yeah, we're also tracking some of these. There's some bills that we haven't talked a lot about, John, but I do want to touch on today because they do matter. But some of these bills that have to do with exemptions, tax credits, that seem to be getting more traction than they have in the past. And the Iowa House, I believe yesterday, as we're recording this on a Thursday, passed sales tax exemptions for toilet paper and vitamins. There's also bills floating around that would exempt overtime pay and tip wages from income tax. And I understand the politics around some of those, John.
Yes, yeah.
But broadly speaking, those are not good tax policy.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, as we have talked about it, because they make the base smaller and ultimately raise the cost on everything else.
That's
to
right.
Government. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely, it is, yeah. And when you do the exemptions like that, it shifts the burden onto something else and other taxpayers. And so I would describe these policies as sort of populist economics.
Yeah. Right. And look, they're definitely populist, and they are in response to, I know with the sales tax exemption pieces, that high cost of living, inflation, what are we going to do to combat that? I understand that now. It's still, as a matter of tax policy, goes the opposite direction of where we've tried to go.
It does.
And they cost money to the state general fund. It might not be a lot. The toilet paper and vitamins are together, I think, $12, $13 million a year, but you keep adding these up over time. And there's a lot of them. I mean, think about all the ones that have been done over the years, and I'm sure I was guilty of some of them when I was up there as well. But they add up to real money inside of the state budget.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, because if you think of where we came in terms of income tax, one of the reasons why we had such high tax rates is that for decades, Iowa, these rates were cushioned by numerous exemptions and credits, and you keep doing these exemptions and credits, it shifts the burdens, and it just creates a greater mess. And so, the best way for tax policy is, one, not to pick winners and losers, and not to sort of single out different groups of taxpayers, but also just try to get the rates as low as possible for everyone. Yeah. And then that way everyone benefits. And if you can have a lower rate, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, that will benefit the economy. Right.
On the tax credit, one other point, and I think we've touched on this in the past, John, but with, say, the overtime wage income tax exemption, the tax on tips, we don't know what's going to happen with the federal tax bill right now.
That's right, yeah.
And we have rolling conformity is the fancy word for it. So if at the federal level, those are not subject to taxation, they would then not be subject to taxation in Iowa. And so we have said whether or not it's good tax policy or not, and we do have thoughts on that, let's at a minimum wait and see what happens, because we know there is going to be a big federal tax bill, and some of those pieces are ones that President Trump has advocated for.
Absolutely, yeah.
So a wait and see, we think, is absolutely in order on those, and then we'll have a philosophical conversation about where is that how we want to deploy, to the tax code for whatever. But again, they're populist.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on one other one that I don't believe is going anywhere, but is inside of the property tax debate. And this hasn't been talked about lately, but the idea of a senior property tax freeze. Again, there's another one. It's popular, certainly with a group of people, but it changes who pays. So if you exempt any part of a senior citizen or retiree or wherever you want to pin it, their home from taxation, it just means that you and I pay more for our homes.
Yeah.
And that's not fair, because now you're pitting one neighbor against another and one taxpayer against another. And again, it narrows the base. It makes other solutions more difficult to find.
Well, I'm going to say something controversial, and I know probably some...
This is my channel, John, and we are not doing controversial on the ITR Live podcast.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now he's going to get the Hoover ball down. And
that's right. But I get tired of hearing this argument because you hear a lot where seniors will demand a property tax freeze because they talk about the affordability and things like that. But that becomes relative, because what about middle-class families, lower working class Iowans, even those who are renting? Those people are struggling too, paying their property tax bills. And so this is the problem here so if we freeze a big chunk of people just because they're senior citizens, that just shifts the burden, just like you said. So the affordability question to me is, I don't like hearing that, because there's a lot of working families, single people, small business owners that are struggling with high property tax bills as well.
Well, let me carry that one step further, John. Why don't we try this? Instead of playing whack-a-mole with whose voice is the loudest and giving them the benefit, why don't we just reduce the cost of government across the board and everyone wins?
Amen. I like that.
Okay.
And
that's what we've said is yes, government is too big. There's too much of it. It costs too much. And I understand that there are a set of services that cost money and we have to fund. And to the crowd out there that may actually be listening this out of some sort of, I don't know. Believe it or not, John, there's people out there that listen to us that don't agree with us. I think they just kind of enjoy the content and Coolidge references.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, but police and fire, what are you going to do? Okay, stop. At best, that's half your city budget. We all know that there's plenty of places to cut. And it's just instinctively, Iowans know that. Let's reduce the size and the cost of government. We have too many layers of it, too much administration, too much cost, and Iowans want solutions. So instead of just picking who gets to win or picking who's got the best lobbying effort, just reduce it for everyone, and we all win.
Yeah.
So
you just summarized the whole problem and solution in just, 30 seconds?
Well, good.
That's it.
And if you're a legislator that happens to listen to this and the temperatures it's rainy out now, but it was beautiful out yesterday and you'd rather go home, or you're a legislator farmer that'd rather plant, there's your solution.
That's right.
Why don't we side with the 70% of Iowans that want you to take action? They actually elected you into office, and get one over on the cities and counties and schools and whoever else, and you get to go home. It's perfect. Yeah. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
Everyone, they will sing your name back home in the streets. Yeah. Victory parade.
It's kind of interesting too that they have an inflation factor added to that bill, but yet they're worried about inflation with with the toilet paper and the other things, and so, but yeah, they're giving inflation to
they're
to the tax
again,
eaters.
yes, and I get it, and we have acknowledged that there is probably a different formula for high growth cities, that their needs are different.
Yeah.
They're like, fine, yes, all of that. So if you're listening, you don't agree with us, and you're getting mad because we don't understand it. Yes, we understand it. All caveats aside, like, fine. Come on, we can do this, guys. We can get wins. All right. That's all I have to say on that. I want to feature a couple things that you've been working on, John, and ask you to kind of summarize them. We did a bit recently about trade policy. I kind of let you go a little bit, and get some feedback about that. There's some people out there that did not agree with you on trade policy. Had one listener who wanted to come in and have an on-air debate with you about tax policy. And I said, well, I'm not sure we're doing that, but I know that John is ready as soon as, anyway. But you did. We did try and feature some of this, right, on the foundation website.
We did,
so
yes.
Talk about that for a minute.
So for those who are either attended our tax day luncheon or watched it, the video of it on our website, our speaker was Vance Ginn, who was one of our visiting fellows at the foundation here. Vance and I are very good friends, and but we disagree on this issue, and so we both did a sort of a written debate on this, and taking two sides on whether or not President Trump's trade policy is good or bad. And so I took a pro side, and Vance took the opposite side, saying that it's bad policy. And so you can go to the ITR Foundation website and see both articles. They're short articles, but it gives I would say, both sides of the issue, so people can decide for themselves. And there's also a neat little video that our colleague Barry put together. Did a great job kind of introducing that. And Chris kind of lays out that in the video.
I know we want to give credit to the staff, but you know who actually did the production work here in the studio on that video, don't you? No, that was me.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay,
I got to go behind the camera for once. It was great. So
I didn't know that.
No, I'm not taking any credit against it, but I did put on my video production hat that day.
I thought the whole thing was nice. The music was good.
Yeah, I'm not taking our crack video production team. It's developing goods. We're gonna be doing more and more of that stuff. I'm sorry.
No. But I think it's I thought the quality was outstanding.
Yes, it is. We've really been getting good videos.
So really good job to everyone who was involved in that. And
I pressed play on the camera. That was my contribution.
But it's I encourage everyone to, because it's been in the news every single day, and it's an important debate, an important discussion, and so Vance and I each have different perspectives, and the foundation, as Chris said, we're a think tank, and we want people to think about these issues, and whether you agree or disagree on this, we have both sides.
And if you disagree, you go in the tank.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what think tank means.
Yeah. Yep.
Good. Well, no, check that out on the foundation.
There's probably a lot of people who want me to. Remember at the fair when they used to have those people would sit and they would throw the balls and they would dunk tank. Yeah,
John just cracked the code.
Yeah.
Here is the next major initiative for ITR and ITR Foundation development fundraising efforts. Is we're gonna have a dunk John Hendrickson tank this summer somewhere. Well, I don't know where we can host that. That'd be fantastic. We just sit and just have all the free traders just
dunk the tariff guy.
Big government, free traders. We'll even might even let a mayor or two come in, see if they want to take some pot shots at that too. That'd be great. We could do that. All right, good. Okay, one other one, John. You had did some work on, let's call it economic growth.
Yes, yeah.
Gross domestic product, GDP, that you and our senior tax fellow Tom Sands worked on. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Tom and I had an op-ed published that was published in the Des Moines Register and a few other papers that argued that Iowa's economy has been criticized recently, especially by Democrats, for it's not growing fast enough, and Democrats have been blaming the tax cuts and Republican economic policies for that. And basically, Tom and I argue that that's not a fair criticism, and we point out that Iowa's fiscal foundation is strong, and we don't need to go into the details of that. You and I have talked about that, but one thing is they're blaming the flat tax, that Iowa's basically going into fiscal Armageddon because we have a new 3.8% flat tax. But what Tom and I argue is that the opposite is true. Iowa's economy is actually doing fairly well, even with some of the national economic uncertainties that are going on with high inflation, and that was from the Biden years, and then some of the uncertainty now with the ag economy and so forth. But what I wanted to mention is that we just started the flat tax. And so in January, we hit the 3.8% flat tax. But the evidence has shown that states that have flat taxes or no income taxes are doing better economically than states that have high tax rates in terms of productivity, in terms of economic growth, in terms of population. And so, I think historians are going to look back at this era, and one interesting thing in terms of population within the United States is going to be the shift that's taking place of this mass exodus of people leaving high tax states that are fleeing, places like Minnesota, New York, California. And so what we're seeing here is that I predict that we just started our flat tax. And I think things are just going to get better. And that's what basically Tom and I are arguing in this article, is that because of, and I think the heart of this whole thing is conservative budgeting. That's why we were able to get the flat tax and why we were able to reduce taxes. That's why, just as you're saying, this is what local governments need to do to tackle the property tax issue. But this is why getting lower taxes is so important for the economy. It allows people to keep more of their income, but it also allows the economy to grow. And so I think things are good for Iowa. And one example that's interesting, which really shocked me, is Mississippi is starting to turn around. And no one really thinks of Mississippi as a bastion of economic growth. We usually think of that as kind of a slow growth state, and Mississippi actually was one of the national leaders this time around.
Yeah.
And what Mississippi just did is they passed a bill that will basically phase out their income tax.
We would love to. I know you would, and you've talked about this.
Yeah.
And I think the time is soon for us to start talking about that in Iowa, of what that path looks like.
Yeah.
We have shifted into this property tax conversation, but we do need to think about what the future holds. If for no other reason than we still have this massive taxpayer relief fund that we will be deploying for the existing phase in of the flat tax, not phase in, but absorption of the 3.8% flat tax. But overall of that, John, is the good news in all of this is that those of us that believe that we will be proven right on lowering taxes and going to the flat tax, we get to find out. Yes. Because we're not backing up on this one.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're going to get the 2/3 constitutional majority to cement this in place.
Yeah.
And make it exceedingly difficult to raise taxes of any kind inside the income tax again. And let's find out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be a year or two. It's going to be 5 or more where we actually see the economic impact. And yes, the impact on a state budget is one thing, but as you explore in the article, it's the impact on the economy. It's the impact on the individual taxpayer and the business and the growth and all of those things, which we will see the benefit of once we get this to actually sink in. So are we going to hear it on year one or see it? Probably not. But down the road, we will, and we will be able to point back at this. And so,
and we're already starting to see Iowa's population slowly starting to increase a little bit because of these pro-growth policies. And we're in the Midwest. We have unique challenges as a rural state, just like other rural states. And just to kind of throw it for our listeners, that we're working on a kind of a next step for further income tax reduction. So that'll be coming out in the near future. on the foundation website. So that's something that Tom and I are working on right now.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to blueprint.
Yep. I'm gonna wrap this up by saying you can find all of this work on GDP, your articles on trade and Vance. It's all on the itrfoundation.org website. But also, I think along with plans on on income taxes, is we teased this out a little bit in the last episode, talking about the 26 gubernatorial race. But we're going to start working a little bit more on broad principles.
Mm-hmm.
What is important in tax policy? What is important in selecting a new governor? What is important in elevating a local legislator or a local leader? What are the questions that Iowa taxpayers or conservatives should be asking of their leaders as we look forward into 2026 and beyond? And where will we see the evidence that it's all working?
Yes, yeah.
And so it's going to be a good project. We got to get through this legislative session first, and this is not going to be 1 or 2 articles. It's going to be a lot of work that, frankly, we should be doing for the foreseeable future, for years and beyond, because this is what, if you are a fiscal conservative, if you care about tax policy, if you care about economic growth, these are the bedrock principles that you need to be focusing on. And we're going to start working on those to make sure that we articulate them and get them out to folks and remind our leaders of what it is that we expect.
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to be working on that. Are you in?
Absolutely. And we were talking kind of about that, or you were mentioning that this morning in pre-production, about just the importance of having that the foundation of principles, and so I think that's very important.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, and if you have thoughts on that, folks, please, we love the feedback. Let us know. But that is going to be a fun project for the legislative interim. So, John, you made it.
Yes.
I think you still got a little bit of coffee left.
I do.
So I woke you up. I don't know if it was yelling at you. I don't know if it was talking about Coolidge or whatever. But you got there. I'm proud of you. You did it. And we've got, I think that's probably about all I had planned for today.
Yep.
I hope we got through all your notes, but I'm not even going to ask you whether or not there's anything else on your mind. You have to save it for the next podcast.
People might be asking you about that dunk tank now.
Yeah, I know. Well, you started it.
Yeah.
You have no one to blame for yourself.
Yeah.
When it is July and people are throwing baseballs at the little target on the dunk tank. That's all on you.
Yeah.
I hold no responsibility. All right. That's all the time we got for today, because John now is about out of coffee. So thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the episode with your friends. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.